This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening. I hereby call this special meeting of the King George County Board of Supervisors to order. Mrs. Kathy Bender is participating remotely by electronic means pursuant to the rules previously adopted by this board. I ask Mrs. Bender to identify on the record the reason for her absence and to provide a general description of her location for purposes of inclusion in the minutes. Mrs. Bender.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Is a family obligation, and I'm located in a private residence outside of King George.
Okay, thank you. I'll now open the floor up for public comment. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone here for public comment? Seeing none. Jeff, is there any online for public comment? Do we know? Okay, thank you. Anybody have any written correspondence or anything? Nope. Okay, we will close up public comment. Move on to board reports that don't have any.
I don't really need to, but I just wondered if y'all were paying attention to the school board last night. Taking $220,000 out of their operating budget. They're going to substitute it with the ARPA money. So, just as we expected, we're going to have a problem. So that's my only comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on, board reports. Approval of construction manager at risk services for the new courthouse and a guaranteed maximal price, GMP, and authorize the county administrator to approve all necessary contract documents. Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you have at your table, and then also we'll have some presentations tonight. A couple of things. One is the construction manager at risk GMP proposal by the construction firm Branch Builds. And we do have two representatives here from Branch Builds that they will be making a presentation to you all. So I'm going to be very brief. And we also have Tony Bell, who is with the firm of Mosley Architects. And, clearly Tony's work, got us here and has been a part of this process. I'm kind of like feeling like a pinch hitter at the end of a baseball game where I'm getting to get up and take a swing, take a cut at the pitcher. But there's a lot of other folks that have been a part of this, even including some of you board members that have been from way back when. And so I'd be remiss if not pointing out Tony's contributions to the county working on our behalf, and also Travis Cusenberry has been a part of it. Vic Mason's here. We have Ms. Taylor as well, Ms. Connor, sorry, who's on the committee, but there are a lot of other folks. I know Ms. Bender has been on that committee as well. And it's just kind of a really, I think, a really nice, very special night that we're able to get this thing hopefully to the finish line and across. And I will be quiet. I don't know if any of the folks from the committee want to add anything, or if you want to do that later, Mr. Mason or Mr. Cusenberry. Okay, but I'll turn it over to Mr. Bell, and then I think you have something that the folks from Branch will be doing as well. So.
All right, good evening. My name is Tony Bell with Mosley Architects. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Thank you, members of the Board of Supervisors of King George County. Our agenda for this evening will be a recap of where we've been, a brief discussion on cost, construction cost, a discussion of next steps, because although we've come a long way from when we started the efforts on the courthouse planning, we still have a bit of a way to go. And we'll talk about those steps that we have to overcome and move forward. And then we'll have an introduction of Branch Builds, a firm that is already familiar to King George County, And I understand is already doing very good work for you here. And then we're here to answer any questions you might have. So in terms of where we've been, this is the schedule on the left you see dated January the 4th, 2022 was where we were. The schedule on the right dated July 22nd, 2022 is where we're headed. So tonight at the highlighted portion, we're going to attempt to award the construction contract at this special meeting and then initiate off-site pre-con activities on or about August the 8th, and then initiate on-site pre-con activities or on-site construction activities on or about November the 6th. The substantial completion date is set for February 6th, 2024, and the completion of furniture installation and final completion of the courthouse will occur on Saturday, April 6th, 2024. I know that seems a long way off right now, but it'll be here in the blink of an eye. So this is the slide you've seen before that we presented to you and Branch Builds has presented to the Courthouse Selection Committee. This is an indication of what's called inputs to construction industries. That's the cost of steel, the cost of drywall, the cost of metal roofing, membrane roofing, all the materials. And this is showing both the 12-month change and the 1-month change prior to October 2021. And as we're all aware, construction prices took a pretty steep incline starting at the end of 2020 and then all the way through 2021. And this is a reflection of that same information, though in a tablet form. So the 1-month change in October 2021 was about 1.5%. The 12-month change to inputs to non-residential construction, that's the second line down, about 22.3%. So how does that compare, for those of you not in the construction industry, how does that compare historically? I'm going to go forward 2 slides. A little hard to see here on this slide, but the highlighted portion indicates that the inputs for new construction, you have to kind of match up the lines here. The 12-month percentage change ended in December 2019. Inputs for new construction for the year was 1.4%. For the year ending 2020 was 5.6%. And then you see a big jump in 2021. And that jump has continued in 2022. So you see those last 3 columns, the 1-month change from 5/2022 to June 2022 was 0.6%. The 3-month change is consistent with that at 1.8%. And then the 1-year change from 6/2021 to 6/2022 is 13.7%. So we're still seeing heavy increases in the construction industry in terms of inputs to new construction. Now I'm going to step back 1 slide here. These are the historical cost estimates that you have seen throughout the course of the development of the project. June 1st, 2021, September 3rd, 2021, and February 9th, 2022. Those are the milestones at the end of schematic design, at the end of design development, and at the end of working drawings or construction documents. And you see we had about an 8% increase in the construction cost from SD to DD, that's June to September, and then another 5% increase from September to February, okay? So we had seen, and we're chasing that escalation. And the total project cost is that number you see down there at the bottom. I'm going to blow this up on the next slide, but I want you to look at the construction costs. That's the heavy black line across the middle. And then the total project budget, which is the line across the bottom. So the first 3 columns on that estimated construction costs are the historical, okay? You see 20.5 million, 22.2 million, 23.4 million, and then the first column under GMP, that's the first estimate we received from Branch Builds, $29.89 million, okay? The next column is GMP2 at $28.2 million. So in the course of from June 2022 to July 2022, we were able to reduce the cost about $1.7 million, okay? And then Branch Builds was able to whittle the cost down even further to a little under $27.8 million for their construction cost. And that's the GMP value that you see broken down on the table in front of you. So we kind of peaked there in June, and then we've been able to reduce the cost systematically by working together and looking at things very closely. So the total project cost has gone from 26 to 28 to 29 to 33. And I've cut the contingency down because those question marks have begun to be answered. Cut that down to 1%. Still think we ought to retain a little bit of contingency for things that we have not foreseen in our planning. Branch Builds also has a contingency, and you see that in their breakdown. But I think the county would be wise to go ahead and still carry a little bit of contingency as we go off into construction. That's about $313,000 for a total project budget of $31.5 million. You see these numbers here broken down. So these are the three GMP costs, starting on June 14th, then July the 14th, and then July the 19th. And there's still some items in here that have not been totally decided yet. The furniture allowance. We haven't finalized that package yet. We haven't put that package out for bid. So that's still yet to be determined. The IT data and telephone allowance, that's still yet to be determined. That's how much handsets and CPUs and things that Chris Dines is going to put into the building. Not the wiring, but the actual head-end equipment, server racks, things of that nature. So as we continue to move forward, we'll get those finalized and get those costs firmed up. But everything above that 27.797, that's broken down in that breakdown that you hold there in your hand. So I understand that there's also been some discussions with Washington County. That's another locality that we partnered with under a little bit different delivery method. What we did there is referred to as a PPEA, Public-Private Education Act. We teamed with Burwell Construction there and offered them a total turnkey project. That project is a little larger than King George County Courthouse. It's about 74,000 square feet. And you see the breakdown of the different floors of the building there. The 9,000 is the lowest level of the building, and the first floor is 19. The second floor is 23,348, and the third floor is 26,080. It's an expansion renovation project, so it had additional complications associated with it. The image you see in the upper right, this is the historic courthouse here. It sits right on the corner of Court and Main in downtown Abingdon. That's right here. It's identified by the green roof in this picture. So everything here is being demolished, and the new courthouse is being built right to front, right on Main Street. Okay, again, that's the expansion. But understand you've had some communication, board member to board member, about the goings on there and the price increases that they saw. And Mr. Miller asked me to kind of relate some of the history going on with them as well. That this is not this cost escalation that we saw happen here in King George is not unique to King George. It's happening across the Commonwealth and across the nation. So what you see on the left-hand side is the budget estimate that we walked into the interview with for construction of $14.5 million. The first estimate that was at the end of schematic design was $20.1. And why was that such a large increase, Mr. Bell? You might be asking yourself. Twofold, okay? Number one, they saw what $14 million could buy them, and they said, that's not what we need. We need more than that. The second was the escalation. So it was a two-factor. There was both an increase in scope off of that original $14.5 million budget, and then an increase in construction cost to $20.1. And then lastly, what you see down there at the bottom is the estimated construction cost of their GMP at $24,059, okay? Now you've probably read in the papers about the total GMP being $27.585. That $27,585 is the equivalent of your 27, okay? That's all in. What you see down here is just the bricks and mortar, the 24. So the difference is the soft costs for the contractor, the CMP, the general conditions, things of that nature. All told, they're looking at a total project cost of just over $30 million. So are there any questions about any of that data with regard to Washington County or with regard to your own courthouse here in King George? All right, from a schedule standpoint, this is the original schedule for the project, and I realize it's a little bit hard to see. But what you see here on the left is that's the 2001 schedule, and then you see the years highlighted across the top, 2022, 2023, 2024, and the bar at the very bottom, that's your warranty period. So this bar, heavy gray bar, the second heavy gray bar from the bottom is the construction beginning in sort of mid-2022 and going to about the end of 2023. And this is the updated schedule, okay? And you see the construction, I'm gonna hop back and forth so you can see the differences between the two. The construction period has gotten a little longer. Why is that? Well, if you've been involved in construction at all in the past year, 2 years, it's supply chain. Okay, not only are materials harder to come by and more expensive, but it takes longer to get them. Generators, 52 weeks. Switch gears, 48 weeks. HVAC, big HVAC commercial equipment, upwards of a year. So all these things take time. So we're adding 3 months at the beginning of the schedule to give branch builds a period to do submittals and not be on site. That's going to save you cost. Having them on site begins the clock ticking with general conditions. Having them work from their office and doing submittals and ordering equipment so that can be shipped to the site ready for installation is saving the county and the citizens of King George County money. Does that make sense? So we're adding 3 months, but it's not increasing the cost, it's actually decreasing the cost. And we're looking at completing construction just at the beginning of 2024 with furniture move-in in February and March of 2024, and you'd be fully operational by the end of March, April 6th, 2024. And then your warranty period begins at the beginning of substantial completion. And as Mr. Mason reminded me as we walked in, that we started this process back in March of 2017. So it's taken us roughly 5 years to get where we are, and now we're just a couple of years from the completion, okay? So we're on the downhill slope now. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Demetrio and Mr. Burton Austin of Branch Builds, and they're gonna give you a little introduction and talk a little bit more in depth about the project and how they're gonna deliver it.
Good evening. First of all, I got to say thank you. When Mr. Miller came out and said, we need to call a special meeting for this. We need to get it on the books. We need to get it kind of on the calendar and get it everybody's schedule. I know what kind of ask that is for people. It's a week that you typically wouldn't be here, the week that you typically wouldn't be meeting. So first of all, thank you. We do want to keep this as brief as possible. I haven't been involved with the project that long. Branch got me involved to kind of help move the process along, working with Mosley Architects, Mr. Bell, to advance the contract. I've had the pleasure of working with Mr. Mason, Mr. Miller, Ms. Lackey, Mr. Cusenberry to get this contract worked through and the GMP and be ready to build. And your staff has put in a lot of great work. They've been very attentive to the details of the project, to the details of the contract, and they have really got us to where we're at today. So they need to take a lot of the credit for this. Just want to talk real quick about your team. Mrs. Underwood, the president of Branch Builds, apologized she couldn't be here tonight. However, the director of operations, Eric Almacher, your senior project manager, Mr. Todd Demetrio, your senior superintendent, Mr. Lewis Smith, they're going to be the people that are going to be involved with this project on a daily basis. Mr. Demetrio is here with me now. He came right out of the high school from Montrose, Virginia, came up here this afternoon to be with us. This additional support staff, myself, Miss Jessica Schneiding, she's our director of pre-construction. She helped put the overall GMP together with Jamie English, another project manager working with Todd will be Apes and Kari. We're going to be involved with this project through 2024, just as Mr. Bell said, and we're really looking forward to it. So now Todd's going to come up a little bit, talk about the project, talk about your schedule, kind of how he envisions it going. He's laid out some milestone dates for us, some things that we can be on the lookout for. So without further ado.
Again, I'd like to echo Burton's sentiments here. Thank you for having this special meeting. I know it's a big ask, but Tony went through a lot of this stuff that we've already talked about here, but we'll just kind of go through. I think the big thing that he already talked about is ordering the materials. This is the reason that the schedule extended that long. We've been seeing this for quite a while now, and materials just aren't coming. We can order them a year in advance, and we can be told they're going to come on a date, and then the date that we're supposed to get them, it just doesn't happen. So we've kind of built in some opportunity here for that to get in front of that, right? And we have the opportunity to do that. So again, Tony went through the budget again. This is basically what you have in front of you. It's just detailing breakdowns of all the materials. And again, you can feel free to look through this. I don't want to keep you guys here all night again. We talked about you guys. But so our pre-construction phase, again, this is just for us to get, so the process here is we have to submit all this information to Tony and his team. They have to review it, make sure it meets all the contract documents. This takes some time for us to get it from the contractors, submit it to Tony and his team, and then have them review it. But what we built this into the schedule so we can do that, we have this thing that's called procurement time, and this allows us to get all the materials approved. This is the material that were included in the bid documents, and then we can start to buy that before we ever put foot on the ground, right? So it can start coming, and we have dates that it's supposed to be delivered to the job site. So really, we're talking about showing up on the site December. That's when we would start moving material. In January, have a building pad. And in February, looking at structural steel or frame, which we'd start to see some vertical construction going on. And then some exterior framing in March. And then we're looking at the building being dried in. This is in June. So again, we're still looking at substantial completion in February of 2024, and then final completion in April. So it's not a real detailed schedule. Of course, we'll have a more detailed schedule when we go into the project, but I just wanted to give you an outline of what we're looking at and why we're doing what we're doing and why we've asked for the time that we've had. And in final, we're really looking forward to working with you guys. We've already worked in this community before. We're right down the street at Westmoreland High School. We've got a lot of trade partners that we're going to bring with us that are working in the area. That's one of the bigger, not issues, but working in a rural area, bringing in a lot of trade partners from around. It's sometimes difficult to find people that want to travel this far sometimes, right? But we've got people that are doing it currently, and they're happy to do it. So we're excited about working with you, and excited to have the opportunity. Thank you.
So with that, are there any questions we can answer for you? Detailed or otherwise?
Yes, if I may, Mr. Chair. Thank you. About the middle of the chart where it was broken into two, you had the first half of the chart on the left and the second half on the right. The top column on the right, I think, said specialties and flagpoles for $97,144. I obviously know what a flagpole is, but can you tell me what is meant by specialties, what that includes? You mean for exterior? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman. So what is the budget amount for the furniture beyond this contract? Can't see that.
Okay, $1,250,000. That's based on a budget of 50,000 square feet. Sorry, $1,250,000 is based on a budget of 50,000 square feet times $25 a square foot.
So that's plus 27 million.
Yes, sir. So you see on this slide here, actually, I'll go to the last slide. See on this slide here, Supervisor Collins, that last column where it says GMP3.
No, I can't see it.
Okay. There is a column on the right that summarizes the GMP, which is the document you have in front of you. That's the guaranteed maximum price of $27.797 million. That's for the construction of the building. In addition to that, there are other pieces of the project that are in addition to that construction cost. Okay? Furniture is one. IT, data, telephones is another. That cost is $520,000. And again, that's a budget figure. Our cost of services for Mosley Architects is fixed. That was set a long time ago. And it's roughly a little over $1,300,000. There's building commissioning services. It's $64,200. And then we provide a moving expense allowance of $21,000. In addition, there's a line item that's the county is paying directly of construction cost, construction testing and inspections, and that's currently budgeted at $290,000. So all told, and we've added a $313,000 contingency. Again, that's for unforeseen conditions, and I can forward this to Mr. Miller, and he can forward it on to you, Mr. Collins, so you have it in its entirety. But all told, total project budget is $31.563 million. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yes, sir. So I see with the, obviously with the construction costs, those have been going up, and I understand the reason for that. The furniture allowance has stayed steady, at least on the estimates. Because first of all, when would the awarding of the furniture and the IT, I guess, is it contracts? When would those be looking to be completed or executed? And then do we anticipate, because of supply chain issues, that those numbers will actually increase because, like everything else, it's gone up in price?
So the schedule, I'm going to advance a couple slides, Chairman. So the green section here in the middle, that's all the furniture. And the last green,
So that's looking like the beginning of,
it's the last quarter of 2023
okay,
when the furniture will actually be ordered and procured.
tracking. So,
So to answer your question, don't know at this point.
okay,
Again, that's a budget.
yes,
So
check.
we're going to try to meet that budget to the best of our ability. And obviously we can do so with two variables.
Mhm.
One is quality
Mhm.
and one is quantity.
Mhm.
And we know that each of them has an impact on cost. And we'll make decisions together with the county and the court stakeholders on which one they may want to turn down in order to meet that budget, or if the county elects to increase the budget. Does that make sense?
Mr. Chairman. So on the middle school project, there were things that should have been handled during the beginning phase. An example was there was no doorway where there should have been a doorway. It made the janitors go outside in order to come back into the building. So the county ended up footing these costs. And I don't want to go down that road again. When we were the school board first was told this is what the cost is, and then the supervisors were told this is what the cost was, and then all of a sudden there's 10 million change orders for unforeseen that should be foreseen. Um, you know, asbestos is not a secret. It's easy to find. Tiles we know has asbestos. Roof has asbestos. So I don't want to get into another, and we have to do some abatement up there that costs the county money. So if this is the top of the line estimate and no more, that's one thing. But these continual change orders is not really acceptable to me. So I hope that this construction management process will stop that. But I don't want to really see y'all coming back saying we need more money to do this. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate Mr. Collins's point, but I think there's a huge difference between remodeling and renovating a very old building and a brand new build on a new site with all new materials. So I can appreciate what you're saying, but I don't think we certainly won't be dealing with unforeseen hazard mitigation or asbestos or anything like that. So I would hope that since we chose this construction manager at risk process this time, knowing what was gone through, and that was before I was on the board, that hopefully this is the right method of doing this, and we hopefully don't have those kinds of issues like we did with the middle school. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just another question.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mrs. Bender.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Collins, that was one of the reasons we picked construction manager at risk. Mr. Granger and I were on the board when it was chosen, and Mr. Bell he has used it many times as an example at conferences I've been at. Is that there's been very careful precision picking this, and in the whole process of designing the courthouse. So all the changes were done when it was just on a computer screen and maybe on a whiteboard, so that it takes away those unfortunate change orders that Mr. Granger and I saw quite a bit in the middle school process. So there might be a few, but this way is to cut it out so it does not happen. Thank you.
One more question. So has there been any boring or testing on the soil yet?
Yes, sir.
So all your pre-bid work is done.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
If I may ask, Mr. Bell, could you explain, how a change order under a CMAR would work? Because it's a little different than it would be in a low bid type of a situation.
I'm happy to, and I'm happy to also ask my partner, Mr. Burton Austin. I say partner. We're not business partners, but we are partners. As with the county, this is, as we've talked many times during our negotiation process, this is a win-win-win scenario. We all need to succeed in order for any one of us to succeed. The county, Branch Builds, and Mosley Architects. So the way the process will work, there is a contingency built into that cost, and you'll see it on the document that you have in front of you. It's the 5th line up where it says CM contingency. So if there is a change that is found needed to occur, I'm not talking about an owner requested change. We see red brick and we now want different color brick. I'm talking about something that is in the documents that maybe wasn't as clear as it should have been, and a change needs to occur. A pipe runs through a piece of ductwork. That will come out of that construction contingency. Branch Builds will say, Mosley, there needs to be a change to occur to the work, and that change is going to cost an additional $100. Mosley Architects will review the documents, determine if the cost is justified. If it is, we will approve it, and those monies will move from the contingency column into the construction cost column. Understood?
Mr. Chair, so back on that, so a duct, a pipe going through a duct. Your company is the architectural company, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
So pipe shouldn't go through the duct. So that should be your problem, not a problem that would be passed on in a contingency fund.
Yes, sir. We will
Okay.
have a discussion on that when it occurs, Mr. Collins. I will be the first to say Mosley Architects is not perfect. If you have an architectural firm that is perfect, I would ask that you please send me their name and number, and we will hire them to do every project. The construction, the architecture, and the engineering professions are not perfection industries. We do a very, very good job of coordination. The tools that we have at our disposal now, building information modeling, as I think Mr. Miller was saying earlier, we've constructed the entire building in 3 dimensions within our office, within the CAD software. We've run numerous tests. They're called clash detection exercises to confirm that ductwork, piping, exhaust ductwork is all coordinated with the structural steel and all the other finishes. However, things do occur. And the things that occur sometimes are within our control, sometimes are outside of our control. Branch Builds, as our partner, is going to help us a lot as we move things forward. Obviously, if someone comes in on the first day of construction, after the steel's up, and starts putting up the fire protection piping, and it's not exactly the way we designed it in our office, well, that could create a conflict down the road. So Branch Builds has our model, the model that we designed the entire project around. They're running their coordination as well. So we're going to take every step we can, Mr. Collins, to avoid those kinds of conflicts that I described. But I bet before the project's over, we will have made a design mistake, a design error. And at that point, we'll have a discussion. Is this something that Mosley should pay for? Or is this something that, was what we'll call within the standard of care? Realizing that architects and engineers are not perfect, that we make mistakes too. And that's the reason for that contingency as well, Mr. Collins. That's the reason we don't suggest going to build a building that costs $100 with only $100 in your pocket. Things are going to happen. Things that we didn't foresee, things that are outside of our control. And we need to be prepared for those. That's why I recommend we still hold that $313,000 contingency until we get 90% through the project. As you said, it might be the furniture that needs some extra money. It might be the data and the telephone allowance that Mr. Dines is putting the equipment in the building that needs a little extra money. So as we go through, we'll work with the county to best meet the needs and try to maintain that budget.
So I thought that Mr. Chairman, I thought that this program was to make sure that those things didn't occur. That either whoever is designing it or building it would incur those costs of those type of errors, as opposed. So we're the government. You're in business to make money. We're not in business to make money. So, and we only have so much money. So I'm going to bring it back up. The middle school project Branch, you all did a great job, and bring John back if you can. But there were some things going on there that shouldn't have happened that the county paid for. And I don't like the answer to the question. We'll work with you. The answer should be, we'll take care of the problem because we're under this contract. That's what the answer should be. Not, we'll see if we can get some more money out of you if we make a mistake.
I don't believe I said that, Mr. Collins, but okay, my apologies. If we make a mistake and you think we should pay for it, we will pay for it. Am I clear?
Yeah, you are clear, but be careful how you speak with me, please. You're a little condescending. I don't appreciate that.
I'm sorry. I did not mean to be condescending. If we make a mistake, Mr. Miller, Mr. Chairman, Mosley Architects will step up and pay for that mistake.
Mrs. Bender, anything before we sign off or move on?
Yes, I just want to thank Tony for being on the committee. I enjoyed being on the committee, and I think I want to reiterate how every person that works in that courthouse, I feel, that was around when the committee was on, in full force, had a say in the design, and I think that'll cut out a lot of those problems that was at the middle school, like a janitor closet. And I appreciate everyone in the courthouse staff that had their input and even caught some things that were not, somebody didn't think of, and they were caught in the design phase when it's just a pen on a paper. And I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Ms. Bell, I just had a couple of questions on this list here. Owner allowances, what is that?
So that's a list sorry. That's a list of items that the owner has identified, one of which is if we find unsuitable soil. So back to Mr. Collins' question about have we done geotechnical borings? We've done numerous geotechnical borings on the site, but obviously we haven't drilled every square inch of the site. So if we start digging the footings and we find a condition that is unsuitable soil, maybe somebody buried something there many years ago and it decomposed and it won't have the bearing pressure that we need for the building, there's an allowance for that, okay? Now, if we don't spend that allowance through the course of construction, guess what? County gets all that back. I've actually got the list of allowances on my computer. If you'd like me to bring those up, we can look at them one at a time. Another one of the allowances is the AV equipment. So that's mainly in the courtrooms. We've got 3 courtrooms in the building. We've also got numerous conference rooms. So we've got a AV allowance in the owner allowances. I think it's about $460,000 to account for that technology. Now, why don't we nail that down today? Because as we all know, technology changes very, very quickly. And a 40-inch plasma screen today, okay, or 40-inch HD TV today is going to be much less expensive by the time the county actually needs to move it in the building, and probably will be even a bigger screen with a higher quality. So things of that nature that we really can't nail down, Mr. Stonehill, are put in as allowances. Another example is signage. So like that, see that blue sign on the wall there, or 104B mechanical? There's a signage package that's within the courthouse owner allowances, okay? We will work with the county to customize the package, to name the spaces the way they want to be named, to put signage over the courtroom doors, things of that nature. Again, that's very customizable as we go through the development of the project. And that is, again, an owner allowance. Anything that is not spent of the owner allowances reverts back to the county. Did that answer your question? Would you like to go through all of them in
No.
detail? Because I can grab the list.
No, I
Okay.
mean, the rest of the list is, very self-explanatory. I'm just wondering what that one was, and then also general conditions.
So the general conditions, that's a good question. The general conditions is for all of the work that's going to occur associated with the project that's not going to happen on the site. Okay? What do I mean by that? Well, there's going to be many people from branch builds that will be working on the project that won't be on the project site. Okay? The accountant, the senior project manager, the folks working on the submittals that will be working back in branch build's office. All of those costs come out of the general condition. In addition, all of the what I'll call soft costs for electricity at the trailer, for renting of the trailer. This is the trailer that the branch build staff is working from when they begin the initial construction activity. All of that comes out of that general condition cost. Burton, would you like to add anything to that? Yes, sir.
So when we think of general conditions, we're thinking of what it's going to take to really complete the project. We want to make sure your site's secure. We're going to have a fence around the site. We're going to make sure it's locked at night so that the material we have stored on that site is safe and secure. That's part of the cost in that general condition. We're also got some signage up. We're gonna have a nice sign that's showing King George County Courthouse, Mosley Architects, and Branch Builds. The cost for that sign is included in general condition. General conditions is what it's actually gonna cost Branch Builds to build the job.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you. And getting back to the contingency stuff, so all of these contingencies, owner allowances, things that are not used, they all come back to the county, or is there a split, or?
Excellent question, Mr. Stonehill. So the owner allowances, if that is not used, 100% of that comes back to the county. Mr. Austin, if I misspeak here, correct me, please. The fee of 5%, that all goes to Branch Builds, and that's a set fixed cost. And if there are any changes to the project, that 5% fee will be added to said changes. If you add another $100 to the project for the construction value, a $5 fee representing 5% will be added to that. The general conditions, we're working from a cost plus fee arrangement. So anything that is not spent of the general conditions will revert back to the county. Okay, that's an allowance basically at this point. The builder's risk tax and payment and performance bond, that's again an estimated cost, but it's estimated that that entire value will likely be used. The CM contingency, those are again for line items that weren't able to be nailed down and or escalations which are anticipated to occur between now and when the actual materials are acquired. One such escalation is structural steel. Okay. That is going to be a 75%, 25% split between Branch Builds and the county. 75% will go to the county if unspent, 25% will go to Branch Builds. I will share with you, there was a lengthy discussion on this. Okay, would you like to hear the specific points? Would that be beneficial to the board?
Sure.
Okay. If I was a board member, my first question would be, why isn't revert 100% to the county? It's county money. Okay. That is certainly one way that could have been negotiated. However, collectively, the county team, Mosley Architects and Branch Builds, felt that a 75%, 25% split would be the most equitable and would yield the best results. And here's why. Again, the three-member team that we all need to be win-win. If it's all reverting to the county, Branch Build's efforts may be to try to spend it, to try to get it all through the course of the construction. Because if they don't spend it, they see no benefit. By having a 75%, 25% split, there is definite benefit to Branch Builds that if it's not spent, they actually see 25 cents of every dollar. So they're going to make every effort they can to keep those construction costs down because they're going to see a little benefit too. They're working hard for the citizens of King George County to give them the best courthouse they can at the lowest price possible. And as you see from the first GMP to the second GMP to the third GMP, there was a concerted effort to try to drive those costs down. Does that answer the question?
Is there anybody here from the, Mr. Jim, is there anybody here from the committee that could come up?
Mr. Mason and Mr. Cusenberry and Ms. Connor are here. And then, of course, Ms. Bender's on the phone, so
Who would represent the committee?
whoever. Mr. Mason, I think, probably has been the ringleader. I don't know if I should use the word ringleader, but okay. My understanding that the beard, the goatee was brown when this committee first got assembled.
Could we get,
What do you need, Mr. Collins?
I just want to ask a few questions that I'm not privy of.
Mr. Mason, would you like to come on up to the hot seat?
Need to speak up on a little bit farther here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So when you all went through this committee of how many people?
What started out, when we started with Mosley, it was Judge Hewitt, Becky, Rebecca Connor, either Sheriff Giles and or Ron Govan, myself, Kathy Bender, Chris Dines, IT from Supreme Court. I think I've gotten most of them. Anybody I've forgotten? Oh, Kerry Gussman. And Rick Herron for the county building.
So all the end users were on this committee.
Yes, we were.
Okay. So do you foresee anything that's gonna be problematic in regards to this $31 million? Will that cover it? Is there anything that you can think of
I
that would be
can't,
problematic?
I can't speak to the $31 million, the cost of the construction, but I can say that Mosley Architects did a exceptional job bringing us all into it, bringing up items that probably we would not have thought of because of the fact that we don't have them, but they have had them in other courthouses and built them in there. I think we have done a great job as a team putting this plan together for the courthouse. So I do not foresee any problems. I can't promise you there won't be any problems, but I can tell you that every office went through with Mosley and their team and thoroughly vetted everything from electrical to data, according to data, to size, to workflow, to entry and exit of the building.
Storage of records?
Yes, storage of records, everything, yes, certainly.
And how about the historic? Is it the historic
Well,
records?
with the new, we will have room to store the records that we have now. I'm gonna be in the process of back scanning some that we won't need, so it should give us room for growth in the future. The climate control in the circuit court room should meet or exceed what the Library of Virginia recommends. All that was gone through to also, yes.
And including the furniture such as holding cells, all that stuff is in this.
Yes,
Even prisoner seats with the restraints, all that furniture is in.
no,
It's not in.
I can't speak to that as much because I don't have as much knowledge to the sheriff's department's needs in the holding cells and all, so no, but the furniture, Mosley came through, marked things that we plan to keep so that they would have that in the building already, and then put in, an estimate, which I have no idea. I'm assuming it's realistic because they certainly are more expertise in that than me. But there'll be a lot of furniture that'll be moved. There'll be some that will not be moved.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
Mr. Bell, are you looking for an answer for that, or I saw you? Okay.
benches. There are benches in the polling cell, you can hear by the line. Polling cell has combi unit, similar to a combination fixture for it. These are all pension grade fixtures, pension grade hardware, pension grade windows. So as I said, this is the lowest level of the building, and every holding cell has a bench. Now, as to cuffing rails are not standard procedure anymore in courthouses because of the safety and security concerns associated with same. Um, so, cuffing rails are a unnecessary addition to some facilities. If you go into Augusta County, we're working currently with them. And their historic courthouse has a cuffing rail because they don't have any facilities within the courthouse that are safe and secure for holding of detainees. But with today's holding cell construction, the walls, the doors, the windows are all constructed to the Department of Corrections jail standards, as if it was a little mini jail within the courthouse. There's every entrance and exit out of the holding cell areas is sally ported. That's 2 doors on either side of a vestibule. The elevator is designed to be only controlled by the sheriff's deputy with a card and a keypad. So I think we have the necessary security features in the building.
And so I wasn't on this board when a lot of this stuff went through, so indulge me just a moment. So one of the big problems with the old courthouse was the public and the defendants mixing. That won't occur in this building, that's correct?
When you say defendants, Mr. Collins, you mean detainees, is that correct?
Or people that, in juvenile cases where husband, wife, and they're a party against each other, that they would have separate areas.
Yes, sir. So we've had lengthy discussions with the sheriff's office, Lieutenant Govan and Sheriff Giles, throughout the course. Obviously, there's the security screening. We haven't discussed it yet, but there's a security screening location in the front of the courthouse, X-ray machine, magnetometer. That's the start of the security procedures at the courthouse. There's adequate waiting facilities and separate waiting facilities in the case of JNDR, because we know the confrontations that take place in those courthouse environments. To your question about defendant and plaintiff interaction, we've got adequate waiting facilities at all different court levels, circuit, general district, and JNDR, and we have much improved circulation patterns in the courthouse. So whereas your existing courthouse, you've got staff, detainee, and public circulation occurring all in the same place in some locations, they're all separate at the new courthouse, separate and distinct. So once you enter the building as a detainee, you never see the public until you're in the courtroom. And when you leave that courtroom, you never see the public, and you exit in the regional jail van. So I think that part of the security is well documented after the discussions we've had with the sheriff's office and the court stakeholders.
Is there a separate entrance for business, like circuit court clerk, for records, so you don't have to go through all the process?
So again,
Do they have exits on, the circuit court and the general district court?
They do. There's separate staff areas and public areas. I'm bringing up the circuit court clerk's area now. So as you can see here on the screen, or can you see that, Mr. Collins?
Not.
No,
not
okay.
well.
We'll take it down then. So there's separate and distinct staff areas and public areas in the new court facility. In the existing court facility, those circulation paths are intertwined. There's
Yes,
no separate staff toilets in your existing court facility.
yes,
There's no separate staff circulation areas. There's really no place for the staff to go to be away from the public. Those circulation paths are overlapping and indistinguishable throughout the courthouse.
that's correct.
They are very well defined in the new court facility. There is staff areas and there are public areas. And there's going to be access control between the two. Now that's going to take some getting used to with Mr. Mason and Miss Connor and their staff, because it's different. They'll have to carry a card as they go throughout the building to enter and exit different areas. It's up to the sheriff to determine how they enter the building. There is going to be a separate judge's entry and constitutional officers entry. That's on the rear of the building, on the lower level facing the animal control.
And they'll be separated from, everyone else, right?
That'll be separate from everyone else. Now, that's not all the staff. That is just the judges and the constitutional officers. But that's in accordance with the Virginia Courthouse Facilities Guidelines.
Yes.
And they'll,
Yes,
and that'll be gated and secured. And that's also separate but distinct from where the sheriff's office brings in the detainees and the regional jail.
is there any separate parking for the constitutional officers that's secure along with the judges?
Yes, they are together, Mr.
It-
Collins.
I'm not talking about entrance, I'm talking about parking, secure parking.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you. So the courthouse we have now is a time bomb waiting to happen because of the flow. So that's why I ask you all these questions. I understand what a modern courthouse looks like. I've been to many courthouses. I just want to make sure that the end users are getting everything they need. That's a yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Anything else? Mrs. Bender?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, thanks.
We would need some form of a motion.
Yep.
So just to ensure I'm tracking correctly, the guaranteed maximum price is the 27,797,243, correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Want to make sure. I appreciate it. Thank you. In that case, I will make a motion to approve the construction manager at risk services for the new courthouse at a guaranteed maximum price of $27,797,243, and to authorize the county administrator to approve all necessary contract documents for this project as presented.
Second.
Mr. Chair, could we have a roll call?
Any, we have a motion properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, we can go through a vote via roll call. Mrs. Bender, we'll start with you.
Aye.
Ms. Gupta?
Aye.
Ms. Granger?
Aye.
Mr. Collins?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Mr. Mason would like to say something now.
Mr. Mason?
Thank the board for the support of this project. Without you all, we certainly couldn't have gotten it done. The need a microphone. The committee members worked hard in conjunction with Mosley to make sure that we had all the needs that we had.
that we had the security that we had. They gave us a lot of input and a lot of thought on how different ways we could do things because we are not used to having these options. The staff, myself, Ms. Connor, Commonwealth Attorney, everybody appreciates your hard work on this, your commitment to this project, and we look forward to seeing the new building up. Look forward to Branch and their building in the building process, and if it's anything that they need from us as far as input, we'd be more than glad to stop what we're doing and do it. And again, I'd like to thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Mason. And I'm just going to say again, Tony, thanks. Thanks, guys, for coming for your presentation.
I move that the King George County Board of Supervisors convene in closed meeting pursuant to State Code Section 2.2-3711A1 for the discussion and consideration of the performance and compensation of the county administrator. I invite the county administrator and county attorney to attend as needed because their presence will reasonably aid the board in its consideration of the topics to be discussed pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3712F.
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. We are in closed session. Hello, Kathy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right, thank you.
I move that the King George County Board of Supervisors return to public meeting and certify by vote that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered during the closed meeting.
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Certified.
Or, I'm sorry, certified by roll call, please. Mrs. Bender,
So certify.
Mrs. Kupka,
So certify.
Mr. Granger,
So certify.
Mr. Collins.
Certify.
Chair so certifies. We are in open session.
I move to adjourn until Tuesday, August 2nd at 6:30 PM in the boardroom.
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. We are adjourned.